Good morning. It's Friday, about 3:30 in the morning. Some nights, you know, I get a lot of dreams. Some nights, the Lord just speaks to me through the night in my dreams, different things like that. And this morning, uh, the Lord kind of connected the dots. The Lord is, He showed me about my life and calling and kind of put it all together, and it made sense. It made sense, and I understand or have more of a clear vision of what the Father's call and election is on my life. He doesn't reveal it all at once. It's usually in bits and pieces, and when you're ready, right? You have to grow into it. And on the crosswalk there, back in 86, was it 86? 85. 85 when we were in Winnipeg. Noel and I were in Winnipeg, and we had to, after we got attacked by the group, we spent some time on this farm. The same time where the Lord gave me the open vision to build the cross, and that's when they walked into the house one night about 1:30 in the morning, and I seen the glory cloud of the Lord up on by my left shoulder on the ceiling. And when I sat down, this glory cloud came and sat in my head, and an audible voice spoke out of the cloud. It sure seemed like it anyway. It was very clear, very distinct, and the Lord revealed three things about my life. He said He would bring forth fruit in my life, and He would bring forth the giftings, and then I would be working for His house, Israel. So this morning, I've been thinking, the Lord kind of took this here and took this here, and He's kind of connected the dots for me. So this is what I'm doing in your life. This is what I'm doing to prepare you for the work that I've called you to do. In 87, 88, around there, that's when the Lord changed my name from Donald to Joshua, right? Names in the Hebrew have meanings. Names are not just names. Names have a reason for it, right? And so the Lord gave me the name of Joshua, and that has to do with leading the young people out of Egypt and preparing them for the Red Sea crossing, and bringing them into the Promised Land. Basically raising up the young people, being a leader of the young people. That's the name that the Lord gave me, the name of Joshua or Yahushua. And it might have been maybe 10 years after that, 7, 8 years. The Lord gave me a second name by the name of David, and you know it because there's a mantle that comes over you. You could feel it, right? And this recently just happened. The name David has to do with that the Lord gave me has to do with raising up. What did David do? What did King David do? He raised up God's army, right? God, he raised up an army of the Lord, and he had plans for the temple. God gave him the plans for the temple. God's given me the plans for the blessed areas, end time refuges. They're very specific, very detailed, just like the plans for the temple. If you got 1,000 people, how do you settle them? If you got 10,000 people, how do you build the camp? You're going to have to know how these things, and you're going to have to know how to make it work, right? So it's something that takes years and years of training. You just can't do it unless God's raised you up and trained you and given you the knowledge, the understanding, and the wisdom. It all takes time. And the last name that he gave me corresponds to the work that he's given me as far as working for his house Israel. When the glory cloud came, that's the last thing that the voice of the Lord spoke, that would bring me forth in the fruit and in the giftings. So that's the preparation that I would be working for his house Israel. So the last part, the last name, the third name that the Lord gave me, it followed maybe a couple years after he gave me the name of David. So all this, happened in a 12 to 15 year time frame. It didn't happen automatic. And the last name that the Lord gave me was Emmanuel. And I always wondered that. Says, Jesus, why have you given me this other name? And it has to do, the Lord's connected the dots this morning. That's why I'm up talking about it now, so I don't forget about it, right? So I don't go back to sleep and forget about it. I need to get this recorded. This is a revelation that the Lord's given me so that you can understand, how the Lord has made me and all that, right? So, in understanding my call and election, that you get to understand the call and election that God has put on my life, and the work that God's been preparing me to do. So the last name has to do with Emmanuel, which has to do with coming into the revelation of the Son of God. Jesus, that's my call. That's the end of the journey, or the icing on the cake, that the Lord's called me to be like Jesus. Jesus was the firstborn of many sons. He was the firstborn. Now it's time for the many sons to come. The sons of God, they come out of the church dispensation, and they represent the kingdom. They're sons of the kingdom. So that's the reason why the Lord gave me the third name, Emmanuel. And that's because he's called me to come forth as a son of God, to walk as, it talks about, God's raising up kings and priests that's going to rule for 1,000 years during the millennial reign. And this is a transition now from the church dispensation into the kingdom age. So the Lord's been preparing me to rule and reign. Like David, right? David was he raised up God's army. God gave him the plans for the temple, but he ruled and reigned as the king of Israel. And so the Lord's made me a king. And I'm coming into that, and it's not something that you can choose to do. You have to be called to do it, and you have to be prepared for it. God has to give you a heart like David. He has to give you the end time strategy, and he has to give you the heart of a servant. For those that have the greater call upon their life, they're called to serve. So the Lord's raised me up to serve His body, not to be anybody special. Jesus didn't make Himself out to be anybody special. He just said, well, I've come here to do the work of my Father, to unveil the love of His Father in mortal flesh. And that's the job of the sons of God. They will be sons of love. They'll be walking in the manifest love of God, of the Father Himself, right? They'll be manifesting the heartbeat of the Father and manifesting the revealed will of God in mortal flesh. So the third aspect of the three names that the Lord's given me. So he's raised me up to be a leader of the young people, right? He has raised me up to be like David, to learn to rule and reign, and he's given me strategy concerning the end time, building the places of refuge. But more importantly, he's called me to walk as a son in his kingdom, to be a servant of all, basically, because Jesus was a servant of all, and to rule his house with righteousness, as as a person that has heart. So I'm not making myself out to be anything. It's I knew who the Lord's making to be, but it's taken me a long time to understand what God's been doing in my life. It hasn't. It's not like someone can come up to you and give you a prophecy or give you a vision to understand. When God prepares you to rule and reign, it's a lifetime of preparation. It just doesn't happen in a moment's of time. But anyway, just thought to share this so you can understand where I'm coming from. Pray about it, seek the Lord about it, and but I love to serve. I love to build these places of refuge. I think it's going to be quite exciting, seeing the young people come in. This next move, God's going to raise up the young people, that they're going to need a place to stay. They're going to have to be trained up and brought into spiritual maturity very quickly, and it's going to be tough. It's going to be a lot of hard work, but you know what? It's going to be fun. The times that we're coming into are they going to be the most challenging times in of all history. They're going to be the hardest times in all history, but they're going to be the most glorious times. And that's how we have to look at it. And we can't look at it in the negative. We have to look at it in the light of glory, right? Because God's about to fill the earth with His glory, and we're just reflectors. We're just reflectors of the light. But we're crossing over into the kingdom dispensation, and this is what all the prophets of old and the Apostle Paul saw. He saw these times that we're coming into. We can't really comprehend it in our mind. Who can comprehend the manifest love of God, right? That's what we're coming into. Okay, go end it here. Don't want this to be too long. Sometimes I kind of ramble on and on. This is Joshua Taylor coming to you from here in Hope, early 3:30 Friday morning.